Lobster might be one of the greatest marketing scams in history. And I say that as someone who will absolutely still order it. But a few hundred years ago, lobster wasn't fancy. It wasn't rare, it wasn't even respected. In parts of New England, lobsters used to wash up on shore in literal piles. People called them sea bugs. Farmers fed them to pigs. They were used as fertilizer, and prisons served them to inmates. A lot. Like, too much. People actually complained about being forced to eat lobster. Which is wild, because today, the same animal is sitting under mood lighting with a lemon wedge and a market price next to it on the menu. And here's the strange part. The lobster didn't change. The story around it did. So how did something that used to wash up on beaches like ocean trash become one of the most expensive things on a restaurant's menu? Because the answer says something very weird about how humans decide what's luxury. Let's journey back to colonial New England, specifically Massachusetts and Maine. Lobsters were not rare, they were not elegant, and they were definitely not Instagrammable. They washed up on shore in literal piles, like sea monsters that lost a group project, ground up and thrown into stews like ocean leftovers. Imagine walking past heaps of lobster carcasses on the beach. Now imagine someone telling you, one day, this will cost more than your electricity bill. Unlikely, because at the time, lobster was what you ate when you had no options. And that's where things get uncomfortable, because guess who had no options? Prisoners, indentured servants, apprentices, people at the absolute bottom of the social ladder. In the 1700s, lobster was so cheap and so abundant that it became institutional food. We're not talking butter poached tail. We're talking crushed shells, ground meat, sometimes cold, sometimes days old. There are records of indentured servants negotiating contracts that limit lobster meals to no more than 3 times per week. 3 times per week. Imagine drafting a legal clause that says, please stop feeding me lobster. There are even stories of prisoners protesting excessive lobster rations. At the time, serving lobster constantly was considered borderline cruel. Today, you need a reservation. So what happened? Did the lobster evolve? Did it suddenly become classy? Did it take a branding seminar? No, but something else did. In the 1800s, 2 things changed everything: canning technology and railroads. Suddenly, lobster could travel inland to places like New York City and Chicago. And here's the twist. If you've never seen lobsters piled like beach trash, you don't associate them with poverty. You associate them with coastal delicacy. Distance created mystery. Mystery created intrigue. Intrigue created value. Then restaurants entered the chat. Lobster was plated nicely, paired with butter, served in upscale dining rooms. And slowly, it stopped becoming prison food. It became aspirational. And here's the part that should make you squint a little. The lobster itself didn't change. Not really. Same ocean floor, same bottom feeding habits, same exoskeleton. We changed. The quiet conspiracy is, value is a story. If something is abundant and associated with poverty, we call it low class. If something becomes harder to access, we call it luxury. Scarcity creates prestige. Presentation creates perception. Marketing creates meaning. This isn't just lobster. It's oysters, caviar, even certain cuts of beef. It's literally bottled water. We are extremely susceptible to vibes. Once lobster stopped being what prisoners eat, it became what successful people order. Same animal, different narrative. And we bought it. We still buy it. We continue to buy it. You will absolutely order the lobster roll. I will too. That's not the crazy part. The crazy part is what it means. Lobster went from trash to fertilizer to prison rations to white tablecloth luxury without changing species, just changing context. Which kind of makes you wonder, what are we overpaying for right now that future generations will laugh at? What luxury today is just tomorrow's institutional food? What product is one rebrand away from becoming elite? Because lobster proves something uncomfortable. Status is fragile, and value is negotiable. And fancy is often just distance plus storytelling. the next time someone tells you lobster is rare and exclusive, remember, in the 1700s, someone was legally trying to avoid eating it. And today, we're tipping 20% on it. Luxury isn't about what something is, it's about who we think it's for. And apparently, lobster just switched teams.